Blockbuster trade news out of the NFL on a Monday at the end of June, just like everyone predicted. Such a blockbuster, in fact, that not even some of the NFL newsbreakers could keep up. It is the full terms. Miami Dolphins, Pittsburgh Steelers, the full terms. The Dolphins get Minkah Fitzpatrick, former all-pro safety, multi-time Pro Bowler from the Pittsburgh Steelers, formerly obviously drafted by the Miami Dolphins originally, and a fifth-round pick in 2027 from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers receive a couple of Dolphins who wanted out in Jalen Ramsey, the cornerback, who obviously asked for a trade earlier this offseason, and Jonnu Smith, the tight end, who caught 88 balls, had 886 yards, a career year last year for him, as well as a 2027 seventh-round pick. Like I said, Adam Schefter, he thought Minkah Fitzpatrick was still on the Steelers. He tweeted out after saying that Jalen Ramsey was getting traded. He tweeted out their defense, including Minkah Fitzpatrick. No, he got tossed in to this trade. So a lot of angles to break down here. I think the biggest one is that this is a player for player trade. You know, this isn't third rounder, second rounder, first rounder getting dealt. I mean, this is basically just saying that, hey, Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith equals one Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's rare to see those in today's day and age. Usually it's players for picks. Rare to see the true player swap in this manner. I think the other interesting angle is, where does Jalen Ramsey fit into this Pittsburgh Steelers team? Because obviously I think a lot of people think the Dolphins are in rebuild mode. And by doing this, you trade away a 30-year-old Jalen Ramsey for a 28-year-old Minkah Fitzpatrick. You get younger in your secondary, feasibly to get more years at the back end out of the career. Now, we'll see where Jalen Ramsey fits in for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because, again, they signed Darius Slay this offseason. You have Joey Porter Jr. there, who was the top of the second rounder. I mean, he was the top 32 pick. He was pick number 32 a couple years ago. So most years, that's first rounder is the top of the second rounder that season. And Jalen Ramsey was his freshman year at Florida State. Go all the way back then. He was a safety. He started off his career as a safety, moved to slot cornerback, moved to outside cornerback, has obviously been an outside cornerback primarily over his career in the NFL, had those years in LA where they played him as the star, played him in the slot a lot in that defense, won a Super Bowl doing so. So where does Jalen Ramsey fit in? Is he just going to move back to safety? And again, he hasn't done it in like a decade, but is he going to move back to safety where, again, he started his career at Florida State? Could very well do it. You know, think of Charles Woodson making the switch later on in his career. Now, Charles Woodson was like 34 years old when he made that switch from corner to safety. Jalen Ramsey, if you watched him anytime last year in a Dolphins uniform, was not the same guy he was early on in his career, but still a darn good cornerback. Still probably better than Darius Slay, I'd say. Still probably better than Joey Porter Jr. Still your best defensive back on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But you did just sign those guys. You did just draft those guys. So are you necessarily replacing them? I think Jalen Ramsey probably moves either to the slot or to the secondary. Beanie Bishop they have in the slot there in Pittsburgh as well. So that remains to be seen. But it, to me, just feels like they wanted the players to impact this roster right now. And Minkah Fitzpatrick, for all the fact that he was a former All-Pro, for the fact that he did still make a Pro Bowl last year, ask any Steelers fan, watch the games that he played last year. He did not have his best year. I mean, he's younger. He will, and more likely than not, should bounce back at an age where you don't think he's declining. But last year was not his best year. And maybe he was unhappy with whatever was going on in the defense. I don't know. But he goes, Steelers get Ramsey, Steelers get Jonnu Smith. And it just, these are the kind of moves you make when, we saw it with the Jets, when you're tied to a guy who has such a short-term span in terms of the window he has to win. There's been so much turmoil this year, or so much turnover this year for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. DK Metcalf, they broke it off with that trade. Then the George Pickens trade. Now this move. They are really trying to get the perfect pieces in there for whatever Aaron Rodgers has left in the tank. Now, has it worked out for any team before this? Not really. But hopefully the Steelers are the ones that can make it work, because, again, in the AFC North, if you don't have the goods, if you aren't throwing talent through that door, I don't care how good your scheme is. I don't care how good everything else is. Your culture, whatnot, it's just too talented a division at this point in time. So I think a great move for the Miami Dolphins. I think a no-brainer of a move for the Miami Dolphins. Two guys who were not in your long-term plans whatsoever, to get a guy who realistically, even though he only has 2 more years left on his contract, could be there 3, 4, 5 more years in a Miami Dolphins uniform playing at a productive level to when this, semi-rebuild really starts to come back. So a lot of different angles to this, but man, a crazy trade to happen on a Monday at the end of June. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are really trying to make some moves to get in play to make playoffs, make a Super Bowl run. Do they have enough? I don't think so, but obviously remains to be seen. That's our breakdown on today's trade from Pushing the Pile. We'll be back Wednesday with full receiving core tiers and breakdowns coming up on Wednesday's show. See you then.